Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being part of this presentation. I know virtual's hard, and you're probably coming off of 20 Zoom meetings, but let's do our best to see if we can inspire one another to change the future. I wanted to share with you some of my latest research, and by latest research, I mean some of this is days old. I am continually learning from all of the changes that are happening in the world to process them, internalize them, more importantly, to humanize them so that we can think differently about how we move forward to be more relevant, to be more innovative, and I just think maybe to be more meaningful. If anything, this disruption has given us an opportunity to rethink and reimagine the future. I actually got to say that nothing says reimagination and innovation like PowerPoint slides virtually. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? Before COVID, or BC as I like to refer to it, I would refer to change and transformation, digital transformation, innovation, you name it, around the terms, the concepts of digital Darwinism. I'm a digital anthropologist by trade, or I should say by practice, by learning. And digital Darwinism was a concept that as technology evolves, as it accelerates in its evolution, so do its impact on society, which in turn impacts markets. And at the root of all of this are people, how they change, what they value, where they spend their money and where they don't, their aspirations, their definitions of success, their metrics along the way. And when you reverse engineer those things, you should, in theory, get an idea of what your roadmap should look like moving forward. I've been preaching this for the last 20 years, and it wasn't until the last 10, and then quite specifically in the last year, that this concept has really started to stick. And that is by default. I talk about innovation in two moments: the aha moment and the uh oh moment. And as we can see, and just look around in terms of our work over the last few months, we've been really driven by the uh-oh moment. If we look at what's driving digital transformation today, it's mostly COVID-19 response. And I get it. We had to work from home overnight. We had to create e-commerce journeys overnight. We had to create virtual support and service centers in homes overnight. But ultimately, we can't just keep reacting. Whether it's COVID or whether it's an Amazon or whether it's an Uber, there's always something to react to. And I think that if this is a teaching moment, it's that COVID-19 and the pandemic is simply an accelerant. You probably hear that a million times, an accelerant to the change that was already taking place. So, this is why I want to speak to you today about innovation in what I call the novel economy. And this is a term that I came up with because I just wasn't inspired. I just couldn't get my arms around conversations where we talk about the present as the new normal and we talk about the future as the next normal. It's not inspiring. It's not framework. Not that everybody needs another framework, but realistically, we have to break out what we're going to do in the next 12, well, no, gosh, tomorrow, next week, next month, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 36 months, because we're going to be in this for a little while. And even when there is a vaccine, it is going to take time to not just propagate, but to get people to feel comfortable again. But even then, we're going to have not just a new normal, but a new opportunity, a blank canvas to design experiences that are going to matter to customers and employees in this new world. In this new world, the novel economy is true to its namesake. It was inspired by the novel coronavirus, I guess quite literally, in that novel means new and unusual. And like the pandemic, there was no vaccine, there's no business vaccine, there's no disruption vaccine, there's no playbook really for what to do next. There aren't case studies to follow or checklists to follow. So I wanted to come up with a plan for me to break down into segments, into phases, how to think about response, and then also how to be proactive in our investments now and in the future. If you think about this sounds so weird, but I think actually philosophy belongs in these times, but also in the C-suite. If you think about the Stoic philosophy, they don't believe that you can control the events, but that you can control how you respond to the world events. So in this case, this is a response strategy. Phase one is where we are. Stabilization, it's a reaction to the crisis, it's business continuity, it's building new bridges across all kinds of processes and systems and operations. It's stitching together capabilities for customers to be able to engage with us. But phase two is where we're starting to enter. And this is, I think, why we're here together today. It's the alive phase where we're starting to realize, wow, we just did that. We just accelerated digital transformation plans by 10 years, whether it's automation, AI, APIs, all of the things that were on the horizon just got shoved forward to the top. And we've done incredible things that we didn't even know were possible. So now, knowing what we know today, what else could we do? What else is possible? Because that's what matters. This is the alive phase. So it is mastering the new normal to set the stage for the next normal. But essentially, what I'm saying here is that we're going to set the bar higher. We're going to create this standard for what comes next, which is phase three, which is the thrive phase. This is creating a culture of innovation, eliminating bureaucracy, accelerating decision making, and bringing people across functions together so that we can do new things. There is nothing that says innovation more than human centered transformation or relationship transformation, as my colleague Henry King and I have developed and still are developing. In fact, before COVID, digital transformation failed or just went off path in 4 out of 5 cases, it's estimated. So we have to give a sense of purpose to digital transformation, to innovation, and that is relationship transformation. And I wrote about it with Henry in ZDNet recently, so you could Google that or we can follow up with the link. And it really starts to break down how to humanize our next steps. Nothing is as great as an accelerant to innovation and change as CX right now, as customer experience, because they are changing in real time, just like we were disrupted, they were disrupted. But that transformation is also the next disruption on the horizon. So let's talk about how we got here. Before COVID, we were already becoming more and more digital. Your customer was already becoming more and more connected. I had found over the last 10, 11 years that there was this real big group of consumerism called Generation C, as I called it, where the C stood for connected. And it was essentially if you use a smartphone, if you use your favorite apps, your delivery services, whatever it is, that you start to behave differently. You start to act differently. You start to think differently. You go through the journey differently. Your expectations are higher. Your patience is lower. And you want Uber like experiences with everything that you do. In fact, if you just look at the sidewalk in China, to me, this is a visual metaphor for what was already starting to happen and has accelerated since COVID, which is you will go through the world differently. Whether it's analog or whether it's digital, you go with a digital brain. And that's what we're designing for, is this digital brain that if you have a sidewalk that you have to walk differently on, then why wouldn't we go through the journey? Why wouldn't we interact with businesses? Why wouldn't we work differently with businesses in the same manner? So we have to take that digital first mindset, because what happens is consciously and subconsciously we change as we use devices. And if you want to get into the deeper science of this, watch a Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma, or take a look at my last book, Life Scale, that really starts to break down how we as human beings change as a relationship with technology, our biology, our chemistry, our how we think, how our brains work, how our synapses fire, how we literally rewire our brains through neuroplasticity. And so some of those human type of outcomes look like this. We want more personal choices. We want things to be immediate, convenient, accurate, more experiential. We want experiences to be integrated, personalized, and we want them to be platform native, i.e., connected for the screen we're on. And if you think about where all of that's coming from, aside from our favorite apps and games and services, it's really this D2C revolution where all of these innovative brands are recognizing the new needs and expectations and behaviors of digital first customers, of Generation C, and they're delivering new products and services, but also much more connected experiences that guide them through their journey. This is who we compete against, even if you don't compete against them in the market. We're competing with them at an experience design level, and there is no turning back. They don't engage with an exceptional experience and then come to you and say, "Ah, okay, well, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I understand that you're not them." It's just deep down within us, we want experiences that are great, meaningful, and frictionless. And I got to admit that's not too much to ask for. So now let's look at after disruption, or AD. In just 90 days, I already started to document the emergence of this new generation of customer called Generation N, or Generation Novel, like the novel economy, where you had Generation C come into shelter in place, and they were already much more among the elite consumer. They were digital first, they knew how to shop, they knew how to stay connected and informed. But then suddenly everybody else had to become digital first. It's the only way to get what they wanted, and they were introduced to the conveniences and the benefits of being a digital first customer. And so something went off in their brain, something awoke inside of them to say, wow, I can't believe I'm just now getting into this. So this is an article I wrote about in Fast Company if you want to dive deeper into it. And then just yesterday, I published this article on Generation N. So really getting into the weeds with brand new research that shows exactly how the connected customer is changing, what they expect from you. For example, it's in the 80 something percentile. Customers, whether they're B2B or B2C, expect you to have a digital imperative. That's huge. They expect you to digitally transform to meet their needs. Why is that important? Well, because they're digital. They have to be digital first. And with that comes all of the changes that are at a very human and behavioral level. In fact, 75%, according to McKinsey, 75% of customers have already experimented with new brands, websites, and retailers since COVID. 60% of them have already said they plan to stick with those new companies after COVID. And you can just assume or draw conclusions that it is because they're seeking much more integrated, intuitive, convenient, personalized, experiential experiences. In fact, our own research shows that 84% of customers say that the experience a company provides is as important as its products and services. That's game changing. So that means we have to think about the customer experience. So, what is the customer experience as they experience us today? And where are their opportunities? Number one, to not be part of that 75% where people are trying another company, or the 60% where they stick with them. This is about accelerating customer experience in the way that we accelerated work from home, a sense of urgency, because it is, where we're delivering more meaningful, intuitive, integrated, platform native experiences for our customers right now. So we have to find out where it's broken and where we can innovate, right? Because it's now a game of retention and acquisition, because everything's up for grabs right now. So that means that we have to rethink our journey. We have to find where touch points are broken, or they're just not intuitive, or they're just not like the other experiences that customers are loving. Because the truth is that even before COVID, experience innovation was already a differentiator. There's some research that says that shows that customers will pay upwards of 25% more for a similar product if they believe an experience is part of that product and service. So now we have to understand where bridges are broken, where we're missing roads, where we're missing touch points and waypoints, because it is only becoming more complex. A good place to start is looking at your existing customer journey. And a great place to start is then comparing that to some of the best journeys in the game, not just your industry, but just in the game. You pick you pick your favorite company outside of your industry, and let's compare. Tesla, for example, has a great customer journey. Today's customer on average will go up to 9 digital channels or will touch 9 different channels to make a decision. So, what are those channels? Do you own them? Do you connect to them? Because this is so critical. When we look at how Generation C evolved into Generation N and how impatience is a virtue among them, it is because they know they can get a great experience. You become uh, demanding more. In fact, I referred to Generation C at the time, lovingly, of course, as accidental narcissists, uh, because everything they want, they could have when they wanted it, how they wanted it, etc. And the key difference that we didn't really touch upon before, but we need to now between Generation C and Generation N, is that even though they're all digital first, Generation N is also deeply affected at an emotional level. So they're digital first, but they're also carrying the somatic marker that is COVID-19, disruption, sheltering in place, fear of getting sick, fear of the economy affecting them. And so now you have this digital first customer who's now conscious, who's been awakened to be more thoughtful, a customer who has to be more thoughtful about the decisions they make because their values are changing. They're, I mean, if you had to put it in an interesting way, they're just really reevaluating the meaning of life right now. So now Generation N is not only connected, but they're informed, they're aware, they're conscious. We have to look at the world through their eyes. You compete with the best in the experience business. In some ways, to look at it, I think about it as the customer's experience, where I add an apostrophe S to customer experience so that we could see it from their perspective because it's different than we think. And look, I get it. It's easy to get caught up in all the things that we do. I often joke, I tried to be innovative, but I got stuck in meetings all day. Now I guess that could be updated to I got stuck in Zooms all day. But if you think about what they're looking at and why your work is so important, is because we're connecting the dots to better experiences, to better outcomes, to better feelings and emotions. I mean, that's what experience means, right? It's an emotional response to any moment, and emotions are powerful. It's what you think, it's what you remember, and what you remember is what you share, and what you share becomes sort of the conversion between an expression and someone else's impression about your business. So we have to think of things from a platform native way. We have to think of us as designing the best experiences, the interfaces, the connectivity that matters internally and externally. It's a real opportunity to reimagine the future, right? Not some new normal or some next normal. This is about reimagining the future and creating the future that we want. Our mission is to stitch together pieces, back office, front office, everything from automation to artificial intelligence to voice first activations to CRM to you name it. AR, VR, however deep in the weeds we want to go, to edge, to 5G, to Internet of Things. It's all an opportunity to connect the dots into much more, let's just call it experience innovation. This is an idea for essentially what I call experience architecture. How do we think not just about connecting things together, but how we do it in a way that evokes a better experience, whether it's just wow or whether it's not wow and it's just seamless, right? Because those are good scenarios. Scenarios we don't want are where people are like, I'm gonna have to give up on this, or this is frustrating. Because that's why I think people are starting to experiment with other businesses right now because they can. And look, in some cases, they just have to. So I'm starting to call this digital empathy design. It's this idea where we take a much more compassionate, empathetic approach, not a sympathetic approach, an empathetic approach where we have to set aside our biases, our own beliefs, our own value systems and step over here to the customer to better understand how they're going through things. Because then when we reimagine the journey, essentially it's an opportunity to make things much more integrated, productive, platform native, and frictionless. And then the rest is how they come to life because we understand how this customer is different. I'm playing around with the concept right now that I'm calling infinite DX or infinite digital transformation, which is this idea that with new leadership, we move in a new direction. And through technology, we have to examine internally, so our operations, so that we can iterate, make things better with new technology, increase efficiencies, increase scales, like we're seeing, for example, with automation, chatbots, conversational commerce, for example, and then also look at ways for digital business model innovation. So, how can we create new products and services that deliver new value to customers or partners or to the community? That starts with understanding how people are changing in this AD world, how their decision making is changing, what they trust. Trust, by the way, is a huge game changer. There in that Forbes article, I talk about the importance of trust now and how people expect you not only to be digital but to be trustworthy, and they say that it's harder to earn their trust now. But now that everything's open to engagement and reimagination and experience innovation, there's a lot to learn about what's different for people. In fact, not that this is going to connect to the work that you can do, but they're even going so far to say that all businesses should have some role in society. In fact, Mark Benioff calls that stakeholder capitalism. It's an opportunity for businesses to make change. And if this is what they're asking for, then we have to look at how do we bring those insights into delivering better experiences, again, operationally, and then also through digital business model innovation. It's all there. I got to tell you that I've pretty much shelved my research before March 1st, and everything that I've been doing and working on and experiments that I've been conducting are all based on immediate real-time research. In fact, I went so far to, I shared it in another article in ZDNet called Bringing an AI Futurist into the C-Suite, where yeah, I'm imagining building black box algorithms to start to study rapid patterns of change that we're starting to see in order to identify immediate insights for now, and then also to train AI to be predictive about those future patterns so that we can scenario plan for any future opportunities and any future potential disruptions. And look, and that's where it sort of brings us, is that you play an important role in stitching all of this together. This is experience architecture. This is experience design. Technology allows us to facilitate the connections, the building of bridges, but also the development of new paths forward that better meet the needs of Generation N as they evolve, and they are evolving. And there's no going back, by the way. Psychology shows that 66 days on average is what it takes for new behaviors to become automatic. So we're essentially designing for who our customers are, becoming. That's what this is about. And true innovation isn't just about using the latest and greatest technology, because you have to, but it's also how we embrace empathetic experience design or digital empathy. That is where true innovation begins, right here. So take this, let it inspire you to look at the world differently, to look at journeys differently, to look at your work differently, to know that the cape that you wear from all of the work you've done since COVID is actually your superpower. Everything that you've done is the new experience and the new skill sets that become your new superpower moving forward so that you can invent the future of experience, because that's what customers want. And everybody wants and loves a hero, and that's you. Thank you very much.